What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. For this camera comparison we have the latest and the most powerful phone that Poco ever made, the Poco F4 GT, and then we have Apple's flagship for 2022, the iPhone 13. So throughout this comparison you're going to be able to see a variety of daytime and nighttime sample pictures and videos, and of course some selfies. Just before we start, make sure to press that like button and let's begin by checking out some portrait mode pictures that I took with both devices. Alright, so looking at those portrait mode pictures that I took, I can't really say that the edge detection around the subject is better from one phone or from the other phone. There are a couple of pictures where the iPhone does better, but then we have a couple of pictures where the Poco F4 GT does better for edge detection. As for colors, well, again, this will come down to your personal preference. If you like pictures that are a bit more vibrant, you're probably gonna like the pictures from the Poco F4 GT. But if you like pictures that aren't as oversaturated, I'm gonna say, you may like the ones from the iPhone 13 more. So I don't think you can go wrong with either device for those portrait mode pictures. But what do you guys think? Do you prefer the iPhone or the Poco F4 GT for those portrait mode pictures? Next, we're gonna move on and check out some 5x zoom pictures. Keep in mind that neither device has a telephoto lens, so everything that you are seeing is basically digital zoom. Now here, for every single picture that I took, of course I did 5x zoom here, so every single picture that I took seems to be better from the Poco F4 GT. Now neither phone takes decent, perfect zoom pictures because obviously we don't have a telephoto lens. But yes, the Poco F4 GT does seem to do a bit better because those pictures do look a bit sharper from it. Next, we are moving on to some pictures that I took with the ultra-wide lenses on the back of the two devices, and the main difference that I've noticed here is the fact that the pictures taken by the iPhone 13 are sharper. So every single picture taken with the ultra-wide lens is sharper from the iPhone 13, at least what I'm seeing on the screen here. As for colors, I do prefer the colors from the Poco F4 GT in some of those pictures, but the dynamic range also seems to be better in the pictures taken by the iPhone 13. So for the ultra-wide camera, I'm gonna say that the iPhone 13 does better than the Poco F4 GT. Next, we're moving on and checking out some pictures that I took with the main cameras on the back of the two devices, and of course all the pictures that you are seeing on your screen right now are taken on auto mode and about a second apart from each other. Now, I was quite surprised to see that the colors in most of those pictures are pretty similar, probably the closest that I've seen in between two phones over the past year and a half, I'm gonna say. So very similar colors in those pictures. Now, for dynamic range, it seems that the iPhone 13 does better in pretty much 95% of those pictures. So for that, yes, the iPhone 13 does better. Now, I can't really say that the Poco F4 GT takes bad pictures during the day because it does have a lot of potential to take really good looking pictures. So again, it comes down to your personal preference because some people may actually prefer those brighter pictures from the Poco F4 GT. So definitely leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Which one do you prefer for those pictures taken with the main camera during the day? So I'll let you guys watch a few more pictures and I'll be right back. Alright, so next we're gonna move on and check out some pictures that I took at night with both devices, and both devices support a night mode for the main camera and for the ultra-wide camera, and of course all the pictures that you are seeing right now are taken using that night mode available on both devices. And of course we are starting with pictures that I took with the main cameras. Now here I'm not a big fan of the colors in those pictures that you're getting from the iPhone 13. Every single picture looks kind of yellowish, I'm gonna say, so I do prefer the colors from the pictures that I took with the Poco F4 GT. Now for picture sharpness, the iPhone 13 does seem to do better in every single picture, and also for brightness. So the pictures from the iPhone 13 are a bit brighter, but once again, I'm not a big fan of those yellow colors that the iPhone is using for those nighttime pictures. But definitely leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Do you prefer the nighttime pictures from the main camera from the iPhone 13 or from the Poco F4 GT? And next, of course, we are moving on to pictures that I took at night using the night modes with the ultra-wide cameras on the back of the two devices. So the same kind of applies for the ultra-wide cameras. So first of all, the Poco F4 GT is using more natural looking colors, I'm gonna say. The iPhone 13 does have the same yellowish tint over those pictures, but the iPhone 13 also has the brighter pictures and also the sharper pictures. So even though I'm not a big fan of those yellow looking colors because they don't look like that, nothing looks like that, in reality, I still feel that the iPhone 13 does a bit better because of that better sharpness and better brightness in those pictures basically. But once again, leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Alright, and next we're gonna move on and check out some sample videos that I took with the iPhone and of course the Poco F4 GT. So the maximum recording resolution for the main cameras on their backs is 4K at 60 frames per second for both devices, but if you're using the ultra-wide cameras, the iPhone 13 can do 4K at 60, where the Poco F4 GT can only do 1080p at 30 frames per second, so something to keep in mind. So next I'm gonna let you guys watch some daytime and nighttime sample videos, and once again leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Do you prefer the videos from the iPhone or the videos from the Poco F4 GT? Alright, we have a quick video sample between the Poco F4 GT and of course the iPhone 13. For this recording I'm using the main cameras on the back of the two devices and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. Both devices could also do 4K at 60 frames per second. So we're gonna pan left and we're gonna start walking this way. This way you can see how the stabilization looks on both devices. I'm gonna stop here and pan left slowly. And back right. And we'll walk that way. So yeah, this is how recording between the Poco F4 GT and the iPhone 13 would look like if you're using the main cameras on the back of the two devices and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. Next we are moving on to a quick video test with the front-facing cameras on the Poco F4 GT and of course on the iPhone 13. Now, the maximum recording resolution for the Poco F4 GT with the front-facing camera is 1080p at 60 frames per second. We are currently doing 1080p at 30 frames per second, but of course the maximum recording resolution on the front-facing camera of the iPhone 13 is 4K at 60 frames per second. We're gonna stop here and spin around for a bit. We'll walk this way a bit faster just so you can see how that stabilization works on both devices. So we'll keep going this way. So yeah, front-facing cameras 1080p at 30 frames per second on the Poco F4 GT and 4K at 30 frames per second on the iPhone 13. Next we're moving on to a quick recording done with the ultra-wide cameras on the back of the Poco F4 GT and of course on the back of the iPhone 13. The maximum recording resolution for the ultra-wide camera on the Poco F4 GT is 1080p at 30 frames per second with that ultra-wide camera. The maximum recording on the iPhone 13 with the ultra-wide camera is 4K at 60 frames per second. So of course we are doing 4K at 30 now and 1080p at 30 on the Poco F4 GT. So yeah, this is how recording would look like if you are using the ultra-wide cameras on the back of the two devices. Alright, we have a quick recording in low light between the Poco F4 GT and of course the iPhone 13. For this recording we are using the main cameras on the back of the two devices and recording in 4K at 30 frames per second. Both devices could also do 4K at 60 frames per second. Now here it is pretty dark, I can't really see anything on the screen of either device. We'll have to see how this footage looks on the computer of course. So we're gonna go this way. Here we have some more lights around us, so not total darkness as it was before, but I'm assuming that most people would record under these kind of conditions. So we're gonna stop here, we'll pan left so it gets a bit darker around here. So yeah, 4K at 30 frames per second with the main cameras on the back of the Poco F4 GT and of course the iPhone 13. For our second recording in low light, I'm using the ultra-wide cameras on the back of the two devices. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the maximum recording resolution for the Poco F4 GT with the ultra-wide camera is 1080p at 30 frames per second. Of course, with the iPhone 13, you could do 4K at 60 frames per second, but for this particular recording, I'm only doing 4K at 30 frames per second. So 1080p at 30 and 4K at 30. So we'll walk this way once again towards the light. Here I can definitely see a bit more on the screen of the Poco F4 GT. So yeah, ultra-wide cameras in low light. So what do you guys think about the video capabilities of the Poco F4 GT? I feel that compared to last year's F3, this one has improved video quality on the main camera and 4K at 30 frames per second. It does look better than last year, but not a lot has changed for that ultra-wide camera with the Poco F4 GT. But overall, yes, I would still pick the iPhone 13 for video recordings. Next, we're gonna move on and check out some selfies, and we are starting with some daytime selfies. Well, here for daytime selfies, I feel that the iPhone 13 does better in every single picture, mostly because the subject is sharper, the dynamic range in those pictures is better. So for selfies during the day, the iPhone 13 does better in my opinion. But for nighttime selfies, not that big of a difference between these two devices. So there you have it, the Poco F4 GT, the latest phone from Poco and also the most powerful phone from Poco, and the iPhone 13. Definitely leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Which one do you prefer for videos and pictures? Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.